Have you ever been made to feel small, in front of everyone? Judged without knowing who you are or what you carry inside. The music hall was full, but the silence was louder than any orchestra. There she stood, Leyla, taking a deep breath before the portrait of her late mother as juice was thrown at her that morning. Leyla arrived 5 minutes earlier than usual. She was new to the elite school, new and two different. Her skirt was secondhand. Her shoes were clean but worn, and her eyes carried a sadness you can neither teach nor fake. The other students stared at her like she smelled strange. Some snickered quietly. Others whispered things they would never dare say at home. She walked with her head low, but if someone had truly looked, they would have seen each step was a small act of courage. That day, the teacher asked them to bring a family portrait. Leyla carefully pulled out a framed photo. It was her mother, in military uniform, standing beside a folded flag and a medal. Her voice trembled. My mother was the first female commander of the Northern Battalion. She died when I was 8. But she taught me something to fight with the boys, interrupted Lucia, the cruelest girl in the school. The laughter was instant, like a wave crashing over any attempt at respect. Lucia walked forward, smiling as if she were going to console her. But when she reached Leyla, she poured grape juice over the photo. Oops. Was your mommy one of those gross silence? Nobody said a word, just Leyla and the dripping frame. Have you ever swallowed your tears because you knew you couldn't defend yourself? Yet, have you ever had to wait for your moment? Leyla didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just picked up the wet frame and wiped it with her sleeve. It's okay, she whispered. She saw worse. And she walked away without looking back. Lucia turned to her friends, triumphant, but none of them laughed. Something in Leyla's composure cracked the mockery. That afternoon, the school principal received a call in her office. A deep voice with a heavy accent said just one sentence. My daughter is there. Don't mess with her. I'm not a man who gives second warnings. Have you ever felt someone watching you? Not because of how you look, but because of what you represent. That day, it rained. Not a storm, but the kind of rain that seems to whisper secrets from the past. Leyla was crossing the avenue on her way to school when she saw him, a man in a black suit, holding a black umbrella. He said nothing. He simply looked at her as if he already knew everything about her. That morning, the sky was completely overcast, and the wind rustled the trees like they were warning her. Leyla had left the house alone, like always. Her mother was gone, and her father was more shadowed than flesh. Halfway down the road to school, she noticed something. The man, still quiet, watching. He wasn't a teacher. He wasn't a neighbor. But somehow, he didn't feel like a stranger. There was something in the way he stood, alert, poised, in the way he lowered his head slightly as she passed. It stirred something in her memory. The old days, when soldiers whispered in low voices to her mother, when tactics were drawn in silence behind closed doors. He didn't speak. He didn't stop her. He just handed her a sealed envelope. Leyla didn't question it. She just took it, and when she turned back to look, he had vanished, in the school restroom alone. Leyla broke the seal. Inside was a single note, handwritten in firm, almost military script. From now on, don't turn your back on them. Remember who you are, and if the situation demands it, use what your mother taught you. No one touches a Karahan twice. Leyla froze. That name, Karahan, the name she was told never to say aloud. The name she was raised to forget. The name her mother made her bury before she was even old enough to ask why. But in certain circles, even after all this time, that name still made powerful men flinch. When Leyla returned to class, Lucha was waiting in the doorway, smiling like always a predator in designer shoes. Well, crying over your little photo again, she taunted. Leyla didn't answer, but this time she didn't look away. She stared, cold, steady. Silent Lucia blinked first. For the first time, she looked unsure. Meanwhile, in a secure office somewhere in the city, 3 men stared at a copy of the exact same letter Leyla had just received. One of them spoke. Is she active? Is Leyla Karahan back? The oldest man lit a cigarette with a shaky hand. She doesn't know who she is yet, he said, but when she finds out, none of us will be safe. How many humiliations can someone endure before they stop staying silent? That day, in front of 200 students, they dumped a lunch tray on her face. They thought she was still weak, but they forgot something. Karahan blood doesn't break. It waits for the right moment to strike. The cafeteria at Kumber Academy was a battlefield of unspoken rules. Tables said more than any speech. The best spots were reserved for the children of politicians, judges, and CEOs. Leyla, like always, sat alone. Not in the far back, but in no man's land between the invisible and the untouchable. She ate slowly, same lunch as everyone else, but to her, every bite tasted like survival. From the corner, Lucha stared at her like Leyla's existence was a personal insult. Then came the signal. Matayo, Lucha's boyfriend, Lagubi, Captain Muscles, with no brain, stood up, grinning, holding a tray, and without a single word. He dumped it all on her. Have you ever become the center of a spectacle? Felt 100 eyes watching you as your dignity hit the floor with your food. Juice poured down her face. Rice clung to her blouse. But the worst part was the silence. No one helped. No one stood up, not even Kemal, the teacher who always seemed to care. He watched from across the room, chewing his lip, unsure, afraid. But Leyla didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She stood up. She took off her jacket, folded it carefully, and then from her backpack, a small blue notebook slipped out. It landed open on the floor. Not school notes, not poetry, names, dates, times, locations, and next to each name, strange symbols. Some crossed out, some circled. Kemal saw it. He walked over quietly. What is this?" he asked low. Leyla didn't answer. She just smiled. A smile we had never seen before. Cold. Calculated. Deadly. That night, someone hacked the school system. An anonymous email was sent to every teacher. It had colon videos, names, timelines, records of abuse that had been covered up for years. Lucha and Mateo appeared in more than one clip. At the bottom of the message, one word was signed Kerem. Was it Leyla? Who else is playing this game? And what's really inside that notebook with all those names? What if everything you believed about your father was a lie, and the man everyone feared was the one who loved you most? That night, Leyla heard her father's real name for the first time. Not the one on her birth certificate, but the one that made half the city tremble. It was late. Too late for a 17-year-old girl to be walking the streets alone. But Leyla didn't rush. She walked like the darkness knew her name. In her pocket, a note, a time, 10:15 p.m. No name, just one line. If you want to know who your father really was, come alone. The house was abandoned. Cracked walls, boarded windows, the kind of place people avoid after sundown. But Leyla wasn't people. She was Karahan blood. She stepped inside without hesitation, ever stood so close to the truth that it hurt more than any lie. Ever wondered if the answers were worth the pain? Inside, 5 people waited. Not criminals, not politicians, veterans. Old friends of her mother. One of them, eyes yellowed with time, voice ruined by cigarettes, looked at her like she was a ghost. "So, you're his daughter?" "Whose daughter?" she asked. Stedmarat Karahan, the most feared man on the Bosphorus. "What does that mean?" she whispered. "It means that for 20 years, your father protected the weak and destroyed those who hurt them. But the world rewrote his story. They feared him because they couldn't buy him. They handed her a wooden box, inside colon letters, photos, an old ring. A notebook just like hers. One woman with silver hair said softly. He kept records. Everyone who harmed others, everyone who stayed silent. He wrote it all down. Why? So that one day you wouldn't be a victim like the rest. Leyla said nothing. Her entire life, she believed her father had abandoned them. But that night, she realized he disappeared to keep her alive. Another man handed her a sealed envelope. This letter. He wrote it before he vanished. You were never meant to read it. Unless you made it this far. And now it's yours. What does the letter say? Where is Mura Karahan now? And what legacy did Leyla just inherit that so many are desperate to bury? Has anyone ever written you a letter, knowing you might never read it? A letter that carries not love, but warning. She opened it with shaking hands. Her father had left her no riches, no estate, only words, and a final threat. If they touch my daughter, there will be no forgiveness. That morning, her bedroom was dark, not because there was no electricity, but because some truths can't be read under artificial light. Leyla lit a candle, unfolded the envelope, and breathed in the paper, yellowed by time, the handwriting, bold, curt, a little broken on the edges. My little one, if you're reading this, it means you made it. You walked the road. I prayed you'd never have to. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. But if I had stayed, the wolves would have found you too. She read every word with a heart clenched like a fist. Some lines were pure love, others pure war. Be careful of those who smile too easily. Wolves wear suits. Some even teach at schools. Have you ever felt your family's past weighing heavier than your own mistakes? What if all the pain they caused you was actually for your protection? The next day, Leyla was summoned to the principal's office. The walls were lined with meaningless diplomas. The air was cold. The man behind the desk wore a mask of control, but his eyes were snakes. "Miss Karahan," he began, "I'd like to know why your name keeps surfacing in problematic places." "Problematic?" Leyla asked calmly. "Anonymous complaints, hidden footage, and now a letter was left on my desk." He slid a copy of her father's letter across the desk. "How did you get that?" she asked, surprised. "Let's say I have connections," he smiled, "and warnings on the bottom of the page in thick ink. Leave my daughter alone, or ghosts from the past will come knocking." The principal leaned in. "I don't know who you think you are, young lady, but if you keep creating chaos, you'll be expelled." Leyla stood straight back. "Com. You have no idea who I am. But if you knew who my father was, you wouldn't dare raise your voice at me." She dropped the letter on his desk and turned to leave. "Expel me? Or admit you're afraid?" He said nothing, only stared as she walked out without looking back. In the hallway, a student passed her a folded note. "No name. Just a warning. They're watching you. After school, you'll be followed. Don't trust anyone, not even Kemal, who's watching Leyla." Why mention Kemal, her only ally? And how much power did her father really have, even from the grave? The deepest pain doesn't come from an enemy. It comes from the one who promised to protect you and didn't. That day, Leyla saw the video, and in it, Kemal, the only one she thought was different, the one she trusted. She walked across the courtyard like any other day, quiet, invisible. But something felt off. Eyes on the back of her neck. That kind of silence that listens. In her classroom, there was a note on her desk. "Library, shelf 17, old camera, play, no signature." Just a symbol she now recognized too well. A small K in black ink. In the library. Everything seemed normal. Books, whispered voices, but behind a dusty row of modern history books, there it was, a hidden player, old. The screen was scratched, the buttons stiff. She pressed play. The screen crackled, fuzzy, grainy, but the voices unmistakable came out. The principal, Lucian Mateo, and what do you want me to do? Came at last, visibly tense. Just keep her distracted, the principal replied. We need to know what she knows before she talks. Lucia leaned in, smirking. Come on, Kemal. It's not like you actually care about that scholarship, girl, right? Kemal didn't respond. He lowered his head and stayed. He didn't leave. He didn't speak up. Have you ever opened your heart to someone only to discover they were keeping notes on your every move? Have you ever let the wolf in because he smiled like a friend? Leyla stopped the video. The breath left her body like a punch. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She clenched her fists and felt something inside her shift. That night, in her bedroom, she opened the blue notebook again. This time, a new list. She titled it Betrayals, and the first name she wrote down, Kemal. Why did Kemal agree to spy on her? Was he forced? Or is he playing his own game? Now that Leyla knows she's truly alone, what will she do next? When a mother trains her daughter to survive, she doesn't teach her to cry. She teaches her to resist, and if necessary, to strike back. That morning, Leyla opened a sealed trunk hidden for years. There were no weapons inside, only knowledge and a map to begin her revenge without ever dirtying her hands. The basement smelled like dust, old wood, and buried memories. It was the one place her mother had forbidden. Only broken things down there, she used to say. But now, Leyla was broken enough to understand what that really meant. In the darkest corner, under a gray tarp, she found a military chest with the name burned into the metal, Captain Zeynep Karahan. She opened it slowly. Inside, papers, photographs, classified folders, and a small black notebook. It wasn't about physical combat. It was mental, psychological defense, survival by strategy. On the first page, her mother had written, "Wars are won before the first bullet is fired, and often without bullets at all." Have you ever wished your parents left you more than memories? Something that could guide you when no one else would. Leyla read every page. How to observe without being seen, how to manipulate perception, how to destabilize power quietly, how to plant seeds of doubt. And wait, but the final section stunned her. Blacklist confidential names, and among them, the school principal, underlined. Next to it, corrupt. Covered up 2 cases, still active, monitor if Leyla is ever in danger again. Leyla's blood ran cold. Her mother knew long before dying. She had prepared for this. The next day was the school's monthly assembly. Parents, teachers, even the press were there. Leyla stood up mid-meeting. I would like to file a formal report for cover-ups and abuse. The room froze. I have evidence, videos, letters, names, and if you don't let me speak here, I'll speak in public. where you can't silence me. The principal tried to shut her down. But the school board director stood. Let her speak now. As the adults whispered and argued, Leyla left the auditorium. In the hallway, Kamal stood waiting. He approached, tried to speak, but she looked him straight in the eyes and whispered, "I trusted you. You trusted your fear. Now, I trust my mother," and she walked away. What will happen to the principal now? What other names are in that notebook? And how far is Leyla willing to go before becoming the very thing she's fighting against? Some dinner tables aren't for eating, they're for watching, listening, and deciding who to destroy first. That night, Leyla sat across from people who had mocked her, humiliated her, betrayed her, but she wasn't there to beg. She was there with one name on her lips, a name that made glasses shake in conversations. Freeze. Karahan. That the invitation had come with no explanation, a formal dinner with students, parents, and faculty to promote unity. Leyla knew better. It was a trap, a display. They wanted to see her dressed up, vulnerable, surrounded, to remind her she didn't belong. Her tutor tried to talk her out of it. It's not safe. But Leyla had already made up her mind. She wore a simple black dress. No makeup, no jewelry, just posture and presence. Because power isn't always loud. Sometimes it just walks into the room like it belongs. Have you ever returned to a place where they tried to break you just to prove you're no longer breakable? The dining hall was glowing with false charm. Kristal chandelier, polished silverware, and behind every smile, a hidden blade. The principal sat at the head, Lucia perfectly curled and smug beside him. Kemal lingered at the edge, avoiding her eyes. When Leyla was called to be introduced, the announcer hesitated. Leyla Kara, she finished it. Karahan, my name is Leyla. The room froze. Murmurs. A few forks dropped. Someone spilled wine. Lucia laughed mockingly. That name doesn't impress anyone. Leyla turned to her, calm and cold. I'm not here to impress. I'm here to remind you the name you buried is the one that built the truth, now destroying your lies. The principal stood abruptly. Your father was a criminal. You can't hide behind his name. Leyla smiled. Then why does your voice shake when you say it? A woman near the senator stood up. I knew Zeynep. She was more honorable than everyone in this room. Silence. Dead, full, suffocating silence. As the dinner ended, an older woman with silver hair approached Leyla quietly. She handed her a sealed envelope and whispered, Your mother trusted me. This is the proof you needed. Use it wisely. Or don't use it at all? What's in the envelope? Who else is secretly on Leyla's side? And how long until the whole school and the whole country knows the full truth about the Karahans? Sometimes memories don't forget you. They just hide until the pain is small enough to bear. That night, Leyla opened an envelope that smelled of old dust and forgotten ink. Inside, there was only one photograph. But in that image was a face her heart recognized before her mind did. Leyla didn't open the envelope right away. She waited, not out of fear, but because she knew once opened, nothing would ever be the same. She locked herself inside her mother's room. The same room where, as a child, she'd fallen asleep to whispered stories of courage, where monsters were chased away with lullabies and war songs. She lit a candle because some truths need fire, not electricity. Then she broke the seal. Inside a photo, sepia-toned, frayed at the edges. For people, her mother, young and proud, in military. Uniformed at her father, sharp-eyed, protective. A third man, unfamiliar, now likely dead. And the fourth, a child, her, 3 years old. Not a birthday, not a family picnic. This was a secret meeting. Everyone in the photo looked tense, as if they knew this would be the last time they stood together. Have you ever seen a photo that felt like a dream you weren't supposed to remember? One that didn't just show a memory, but triggered one. Leyla touched the image. Suddenly, a rush of color and sound. Her mother running, red lights flashing. A man bleeding, yet smiling. A promise whispered before the dark swallowed him. She looked again at the fourth man. He wasn't just an ally. He was close. Maybe too close. On the back of the photograph, a name and a warning. If you ever see her, don't approach. Don't steal the piece we fought so hard to give her. Leyla's pulse froze. She'd heard that name before, in whispers, in shadows. And now this face, this ghost, could be the missing piece. Later that night, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. One line. You know who the fourth man is. I do too. But you shouldn't trust him. Who is? Why did her mother hide his identity? And why is someone watching, afraid that Leyla will remember the truth? Some doors aren't meant to be opened. But what if your name is carved on the handle? The next morning, Leyla held the photograph in one hand and her past in the other. She stared at the fourth man, see him as the ghost, the protector, the traitor. Her mother had warned her, if you see him, don't let him near you. But why? Why did her father trust him? And her mother fear him? She needed answers. And one thing remained. The ring. Her father's silver ring. For years, she thought it was only a symbol, but something felt off. She turned it gently. Click. A tiny mechanism opened. Inside, a rolled strip of paper and written on it. Two things. A set of coordinates and one word. Blue. Leyla traced the location. It led to an abandoned government archive known only to high-ranking officers. At sunset, she arrives. A glass building hidden behind hills, silent as a grave. Inside, the air was sterile. Every footstep echoed like a warning. On level -3 behind, a biometric scanner was box 135E. She placed the ring on the scanner. It beeped Approved. The drawer slid open. Inside the box, a video drive labeled "Only if she survives." A folder marked classified, stamped with the insignia of the same government that claimed her father was a fugitive, and a sealed envelope with one word: CMS. Leyla inserted the USB into the nearby screen. It flickered to life. Her mother appeared, a video, aged and shaky, but clear. Leyla, if you're watching this, then you've survived, and now you deserve the truth. She paused, visibly emotional. Your father didn't betray us. He saved us. And the man in the photograph, see, he was my brother. Leyla's breath stopped. He loved you like his own. But in the end, he chose loyalty to the system over loyalty to blood. He handed over your location, and your father died because of it. The screen glitched for a moment. Then her mother's face turned cold. He will try to come back now, to redeem himself. But remember, not all ghosts return to make peace. Some come back to finish what they started. Leyla stood motionless. Every piece of her life, every lie, every silence now made sense. Back at home, she opened the final envelope. A recent photo, her taken from far away, and on the back, "I'm closer than you think," signed, "Sienmez Izzy, here to protect her, or finish what he began." Will Leyla forgive or fight? And can she ever find peace when the truth keeps chasing her? The end.